Welcome everyone to Hope Springs Eternal, where getting out of your comfort zone helps transform your life. I'm your host, John Warden, and welcome my beautiful co-host, Brittany Garcia. Brianna, sorry. Jeez, I've already blown it. That's what happens when you multitask.
He's got a lot of things on his hands right now.
So we have our guests joining us today are Brittany Smith, not Brittany Taylor, but Brittany Smith, and Elizabeth Estabrook, and Whitney Dejanay. So if you guys would, please, we'll just go around the room and you can introduce yourself. I guess we'll go in alphabetical order for lack of a better way to do it. So Brittany, you're up first. Just introduce yourself and just give a little bit of your story, and then we'll go on to Elizabeth and then Whitney.
My name is Brittany. I was in a motor vehicle accident in 2007. Quick little rundown. Everything on the left side was pretty much injured, and since 2007, I've had 55 surgeries and am still ongoing. But that's a little bit of my story.
Excellent. Elizabeth?
I'm Elizabeth Estabrooks. I am a U.S. Army veteran. I served from 1977 to 1980. And I have been, for most of my career, I was in the field of domestic violence and sexual assault, working with women who were survivors and victims, or working in policy and research and programming. So, and I retired in 2022 from, I was the deputy director at the VA Center for Women Veterans in DC. And in March 25, I released my book, Broken in the Stronger Places: From Resilience to Resourcefulness.
Did we lose her audio?
Did you hear me?
You were broken up for a little bit, whatever the last part is that we didn't hear that.
Oh, so I was the deputy director at the VA Center for Women Veterans and retired in 2022. And in March of this year, I released my book, Broken in the Stronger Places: From Resilience to Resourcefulness.
Excellent. Welcome, Whitney.
Yes, sir.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Whitney Dejanay. I'm a U.S. Navy Seabee veteran from the Gulf War. I served from 88 to 92, and I am currently on VA disability for military sexual trauma.
Okay, thank you. So what I'd like to do is start off with, of you have your life experience. So tell us, like, what was your immediate, after your incident, whatever your specific incident, major incident was, what was it that came to you that said, hey, I need to get help? So Brittany, we'll start with you.
I was put in help immediately. I was in ICU for 3 months. I was inpatient for 6 months, and then outpatient rehab for over a year. I was the first female Marine in Wounded Warrior Battalion West, and it was really hard. It was very small back then, and it was really hard because at that point, our only job was to just go to our appointments. That's it. Show up to formation, go to your appointments, and you didn't have any other job. And that was really hard for me. I couldn't sit back and let my injuries kind of take the most of me. I was going to so many different programs and stuff, but honestly, when the adaptive sports came out, was a great opportunity for me to I guess, see more than just going to medical appointments.
Excellent. And Elizabeth, what about you?
So mine was not a direct path. I actually, when I was in the military, was what is when I got what we know as military sexual trauma. It was a result of experiences of ongoing daily sexual harassment and assault for the 3 years I served. And I got out, and in the 80s, we weren't talking about post-traumatic stress or even especially not MST. And so I went on to my work, and in 93, I started in the field working with women who were victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And I had my own personal relationships with intimate partner violence. And so then I just carried on working, doing the work for 30 years and ignoring my own MST, PTSD, but taking in all of these stories, which caused vicarious trauma. For those of you who don't know what vicarious trauma is, it's a lot of times people who are first responders, therapists, et cetera, they will have vicarious trauma that comes from constantly witnessing and participating in trauma. And so nurses, like emergency room providers, et cetera. And so I actually didn't get a diagnosis of MST PTSD until the first one was in like 2017 or 2018. And then as I continued to do my work, it worsened. And so when I left the VA, it was under less than favorable conditions. I wasn't fired. I walked off the job because of what was happening at the VA Center for Women Veterans in the VA, because and it had exacerbated my post-traumatic stress. So it was at that time I got reconnected with a psychologist and began the hard work of recovering in my mental health and the constant re-traumatization from my own trauma. And so I guess what I want to say to people is it's not a direct route necessarily from trauma incident to when you begin overcoming your trauma or working on your trauma. It can be decades of work before you get from trauma experience to I have to do something about this trauma this post-traumatic stress that I have. And that was my route to get to healing.
Thank you. Whitney,
Yes, sir.
can you talk a little bit about your experience, and then what after that experience helped you seek help? Or did you
Yes,
get
sir.
any help or support, or what was your experience like?
Um, I was assaulted for 4 months while I was on duty at Naval Air Station Jacksonville in 1989. I had zero affiliation with the VA until 2002. I tried to do a claim and it was denied because MST wasn't a thing yet. And I went back in 2023 and was able to get care at the VA, and I was able to get a claim done where I'm now 100% PTSD, and then also special monthly compensation award S as well. Um, the Biden's secretary of VA actually told my MST story at the MGM Hotel in Las Vegas like 2 years ago, and I found that very powerful when his head speechwriter contacted me for the details. Um, a source of issue for me is I left the U.S. Navy under honorable conditions. I do not have a good conduct. Because after I was assaulted, I was sent to another base, and immediately I got in trouble drinking underage, and I had an Article 17. Shortly after that Article 17, I had another one, Article 17 for stealing food. So I have those on my record. I actually didn't think it would bother me this much to talk about it, but I left the U.S. Navy without a good conduct. I think I'm the only person I know that doesn't have a good conduct, because that's kind of what everybody gets. And that causes me a lot of distress that right after the assaults, I found myself in barracks restriction for quite a while, which is essentially jail. And I had half of my pay removed for, it was about 4 to 5 months while I was in jail for drinking underage and stealing food from the galley. And nobody ever asked, what happened? Why did you go from having a good evaluation to now you're busted from E3 to E2, and a week later you're busted E2 to E1? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever sought support or tried to appeal your good conduct um, disposition of your discharge? Have you ever tried to find either a legal service support or some type of veteran organization that can help with that? I'm just curious.
No, I hear people say, for MSTs, because there's a lot of women that left with dishonorable discharges after they were assaulted and they told, then they were kind of ostracized and found themselves on report and getting in trouble until they just left. And a lot of women left with dishonorable. I've heard like there's something in some office, some agency to contact. I'm not aware of any.
Okay, well, I'm gonna help connect you. I see you
Okay.
shaking your head, Elizabeth. Do you want to chime in?
I do, Whitney. I'm so sorry that was your experience. I worked, just so that you will know, I started working with women veterans in 2016, and I worked with thousands of women over the years. And that is all too common story up until maybe 10 years ago or so. It was really common for women to, once they went to their commander and said what happened, to receive a dishonorable discharge and they were charged with things like adultery, drug and substance use, et cetera, with no consideration for the fact that they were in fact victims and survivors. And so there, Whitney, I would encourage you to work with Jay on that to get or John to overturn that, because you can have that reconsideration for that. And anyone listening, I would advise them to do the same, that especially if you have an experience of sexual harassment, assault, or rape in your military history, I would say definitely connect and see about getting that discharge status changed, because
Well,
you don't deserve that.
I have an honorable discharge. I just
Oh,
don't
okay.
have a good conduct
Oh,
ribbon.
okay. Okay, sorry about that then.
And
But for anybody listening who does have a dishonorable discharge, all that stands.
yeah, no, in fact, the VA is awesome. I live in Las Vegas. The VA is amazing. I can't say anything bad about the VA. They've treated me great. It just took me a long time to get here, because when I first reached out to the VA, MST wasn't even a thing. It
Yeah.
was not even it sure wasn't talked about. But it's not even that. I got assaulted for 4 months. I don't know the age of the people listening to this, but what was done to me was so demeaning. Like it's too hard to even talk about. It's unspeakable. And it went on for 4 months. And I left the man that assaulted me. I'm a Native American. I cannot pass as a white woman. Um, the man that assaulted me also assaulted 5 other olive-skinned, short girls right up against the body fat standard. And he was dishonorably discharged. And the Navy moved me from NAS Jax to CB school in Gulfport, and in Gulfport, Mississippi. And I got there and I thought, well, that's behind me. And then immediately I'm drinking underage. And now I'm in jail, basically. Barracks restriction is jail. And they've taken half my money for several months. And all I could do was just like go to McDonald's on base after I went to the galley and ate, and then steal food from the galley and keep drinking. And nobody put anything together. Well, back then, nobody cared anyway. I was a little Indian girl. I didn't have any value. And I look at it now and it makes me very angry and upset that I got put in jail. I lost half my pay for many months. I got busted from E3 to E2 and then E2 to E1 a week apart. And then I had to start everything over and I had all these strikes against me. But I hadn't done anything but went to work. And I got raped at work. And it wasn't even that I was just raped. He ejaculated on me and made me wear his semen the rest of my shift. And that went on for 4 months of my life. I am never going to be okay. I don't believe that the VA can do enough to make me okay. That's kind of where I am. And I have no good conduct ribbon. Everybody has a good conduct ribbon. I always look when I see someone in uniform, there's always a good conduct. I have no good conduct. And I did drink the alcohol and I did steal the food, but there was so much more behind it. So I didn't plan on this being this upsetting. I'm so sorry.
Well, actually, I think this is kind of how healing starts. I know you're shaking your head, Brittany, but getting it out in the open. I mean, I ran a program that we had a women's program, and there were probably 50 or 60 of people who had similar stories to yours, and they would find some peace and some healing. I don't know, Brittany, if you want to go in and speak about it.
Yeah, there was, I will say, as far as healing goes, working with JW and like the Rider Recovery and everything else, I mean, it was amazing because being able to connect with others, not only that are going through similar things that you've been through, but I guess sometimes, a lot of times, at least for me, it felt like they had it a lot worse. And definitely coping with what you're going through. It's hard, but definitely getting into the resources. Now, were you talking about Ride Your Recovery specifically, or?
Or no, anything in your life. I mean, I think that just the story that Whitney's talking about is a very common story about,
Yeah.
you have no value, you have no worth. I mean, we heard a lot of stories like that, and I think I was going to ask Elizabeth, in her work, is it her opinion that that's the reason why 76% of sexual assault victims in the military don't report? Because, go ahead if you want to chime in on that, Elizabeth.
I mean, especially for women though, like in men fields, I feel like they're overlooked a lot of the time. And this is why, one of the reasons why JW really wanted to create a space for everyone to be able to share and feel safe to talk about this and to start that healing, because it's super important. The more you talk about it, it's easier said than done, but it does take a lot of weight off of you over time, because then you start to connect with other people that can relate to you in that sense, and you feel a sense of community, which brings us back to why JW does what he does, is creates this community of people that really can come together and relate and push each other and just motivate each other and inspire one another to keep going, because we only have one life and we have to enjoy it, and we all go through traumatic experiences, and it sadly is a part of life, but your story can help inspire so many other people, which is why this space was created, first and foremost. But thanks for sharing, everyone. And I know it's hard to talk about a lot of these things, but I think it's very necessary.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I am. So to your point, yeah, a lot of times people don't report because they're afraid that they won't be believed. And I want to talk for a minute about why that continues to be true. When you look at the media, when you look at media, social media, anything, when a woman says this happened to me, what happens? Who?
She's a
who-
liar.
She's a liar. She's in it for the
She's a
money. She's
slut.
trying to ruin his reputation. She's a slut. She was just, there's all of these things that
Withdrawn.
come out about her being a bad person. When we testify in front of Congress, they say, what about if she's lying? Only like 2 to 4% of people of allegations of sexual assault are untrue. The rest are true. And so when we have all of these narratives in this society that say that it's not true, that jump to the defense of the offenders, and that demonize the victims and survivors. And so women in the military, especially because they're only, now they're 18%, but because we've traditionally been such a small number, and for women of color and Indigenous women especially, that those danger numbers are even higher. I spoke with, in the 4.5 years that I was in Oregon speaking with women veterans, out of 2,000 women veterans, less than a handful said nothing happened to them. So, it's when we ask in the military, or when VA researchers ask, they couch it in terms of, were you sexually assaulted? Do you have MST? Well, a lot of people say no to those questions, and for an abundance of reasons. So instead of asking someone if they have MST, because if they don't have a PTSD diagnosis related to MST for VA, they might tell you that they don't have MST, that it didn't happen to them. And so I think that language is really important when we respond to something on social media, or in a social setting, or in a professional setting. The words we use can affect how victims and survivors feel. It can affect how they feel like they shouldn't say anything, how dangerous it is for them to speak up. Betrayal institution for Whitney and so many other survivors is real when we talk about the military, because like when I went in, they said, look to your front, look to your back, look to your left, look to your right. We're your family, we're your brothers and sisters. We will always have your back. Always we will be for you. And then they're not. And then when someone like Whitney needs them and goes to them, they get no help. And in fact, they get punished. So these are all huge impediments to overcoming trauma. But as Whitney has said, and Brittany and I have said, it can happen. You can start to get on that healing path, but you can also face setbacks. So thank you for asking me to answer that.
No, I mean, this is kind of an open forum. So like, you just, I wanted to have like an open dialogue. That's why I don't like structure, because you never know where the conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
And the whole point is, the whole point of getting on here and telling your story is a little bit uncomfortable, shall we say. And I'm definitely a expert in getting people uncomfortable, but doing it in a way that can transform their life. I see you smiling, Brittany. So you can say, how did getting uncomfortable help change your life?
Well, I definitely got very, very uncomfortable getting with Ride to Recovery with John, and all of the different activities. I could not, like, physically, I had shattered my hip, I broke my femur, my knee, my foot. My left arm does this whole little thing where it goes backwards. So, and then being invited
She used to
to
freak
go
people out about that.
What a party
Everybody's
trick.
like, "Do your arms."
I was just going to say that, Brianna.
But being told that, like, okay, we're going to go on a 5-day ride, and we're going to ride, 30 to, what the longest day in the California ride was 100 miles, I think.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And told that, like, okay, you can get on a bike and you can ride and do all these other things. And I was definitely very, very uncomfortable. But we had such a great support. And this was talked about, on the last podcast. I tuned in for a little bit, and it was so amazing to just hear it again. It was just such a good support system that John had put together. And it was just amazing. I fell back so much in the rides, and to have like Juan Carlos would come, and he is an amputee, and he is helping push me along. And it was moments like that, and seeing people that had been through so much worse, or at least in my eyes, it's hard for me to ever compare injuries to anybody else, mentally, physically, whatever, because everyone has their own struggles in some way. And while mine, 55 surgeries seems like a lot, like somebody with a back injury, I could never compare myself to, because I couldn't understand that kind of pain. And so seeing somebody, as an amputee, get behind me and push me, like that was more than just a physical push. That was definitely a mental push. And to have somebody help me, it really it it helped so much. It definitely pushed me in so many different ways.
So talk a little bit about after the ride. You have a great story that I want you to tell about how you got into the bikini fitness stuff. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, the story starts a little bit before Ride to Recovery. While I was in ICU, like I said, I was inpatient for 3 months, and they allowed me a little break. And some of my Marine friends had come pick me up, and they took me to the mall, and we went shopping. And I come back to ICU with all these shopping bags, and I had bought myself a pair of heels. And granted, at this time, I was still in a wheelchair. And the ICU nurse told me, you'll never be able to wear heels again. And at that point, like, you can't tell me I will never wear heels again. So I got introduced to JW and a whole bunch of different other amazing athletes in the adaptive sports. I was able to, obviously progress a lot. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I started working with a trainer, and I walked across a stage in heels, and I got fourth in a bikini competition. It was definitely something I am so proud of. So, not letting anything hold me back, and definitely progressing and pushing forward. So,
What was it? Why did she tell you that you would never be able to walk in heels because of the severity of your
my
injuries?
injuries, yeah. I had shattered my hip, definitely shattered my hip. I had a compound fracture to my femur. I had plates in my femur, my knee, my left foot was almost ripped in half. And so, just for lower body, yeah, the idea of me being able to walk in heels again just kind of seemed absurd.
But yeah, you did it.
I did. Nobody's gonna, again, and being around so many people in the support system that you created, it allowed me to see so many people that had pushed through so much worse. And again, and in my eyes, I keep saying worse, but it's hard for me to ever compare anything to anybody. Um, can I talk about Chuck?
Absolutely. Tell us about anything you want.
Okay. When I got to compete in the Warrior Games, I did swimming as well. And there was this amazing man, Chuck, who was a blind double amputee who swam next to me. And every time we would get in the pool to swim, he was always like, "Oh, what's up, Speedy Gonzalez?" And I was like, "Who are you talking to, Chuck? Like, you're a blind double amputee, and I'm pretty sure you swim faster than me." And he always had the best attitude and did such amazing, incredible things. So it was great to be surrounded by so many people that had been through so many different bad traumatic situations, and was always there lifting each other up and just motivating each other just to keep going.
Because you also mentioned you were a part or like partaked in adaptive sports, right? What
Yes.
was it? Just what did that look like? Cycling, swimming?
Well, it started out with just cycling. When the Warrior Games were created, we were such a small group starting that we needed to compete in 3 different events if we were going to. And so at that point, like, I kind of had to pick on some different other sports that, so I ended up doing swimming, sit down volleyball, and cycling. And that's what I competed in the Warrior Games. While I was at Wounded Warrior Battalion West, I also got to not really compete, but be a part of a surfing group that would come out and help with the injured Marines with surfing as well. So,
Wow, how soon after your injuries or surgeries did you get into all of that?
it was probably 2008, 2009. So probably 2 years after that I was able to actually start getting involved in the sports. But granted,
Wow.
I had broken everything on the left side of my body. So
Wow. Did you have no sensation on that side of your body when you started all these sports?
it was different for each area of my body. My left arm, I had a lot of desensitization, but my left leg was highly sensitive. Just touching my left leg would like make me jump.
Oh, wow.
So we're sitting at 55 surgeries as of 2 months ago.
That's amazing. But it's just incredible how the human spirit can overcome certain things when you channel it in the right direction.
Exactly.
I have a
Can I-
question for both Elizabeth and Whitney. When you had your incident and you were sort of in that post period, what role did anger play, either positively or negatively, in your life at that time?
Well, I think that I want to specify that it wasn't a single incident, right? It was every minute of every day that I served in the US military, 24/7, 365. I was being harassed and or assaulted for 3 years. So it was not a single incident, it was a life that I was living. And so that had a really it had an impact on me, but it was one that I didn't truly understand. And I knew I had become more angry because I could tell when I got out of the military, I was not the same person who went in, right? I wasn't the same 18 or 19-year-old who went in. And my family made comments, people noticed, but I did what so many veterans do. I sucked it up and I moved along because I had a kid to feed, I had a household to run, I had bills to pay, I had a life to live. And so I knew I was more angry, but I just was like, well, that's just, I had a lot of reasons for thinking that it was for not relating it to my experiences in the Army. And before I go on, I want to, we were asked to define MST. So for those the listeners, MST is military sexual trauma. The VA coined that term, and it was like the early 90s. The military does not recognize the term military sexual trauma. Right, that the VA came up with that so that they didn't have to continue to say harassment, assault, and rape. So they packaged it into a nice, neat little term called military sexual trauma. So for me, I think it's important to say that harassment, assault, and rape are the things that happen to you. They're the experiences that happen to you. And I think that somebody said, I think it was you, Brittany, that said words are important, how we use words. So I've heard a lot of women over the decades who've said they won't even call it what it is. They come up with pretty language because they won't even call it. We lived with this. We experienced with this. Where we experience this. So let's stop, the VA and others like to backpedal. And yeah, the VA does a good job treating it, but I think it's important that veterans or that victims and survivors understand that they're allowed to say, I was harassed, I was assaulted, I was raped, instead of saying MST happened to me. MST didn't happen to you. You were assaulted, harassed, or raped. And now you have MST as a result of those horrific experiences. And so I think that's really important because people, a lot of women and men don't apply for their benefits because they don't have a diagnosis, which there's no such diagnosis, but so you see what I'm saying? They make that connection. So the words that we use when we're talking to people need to be getting at what happened to them, not what they have currently. And so for me and others, the experience may have been, as in Whitney's case, not a single incident, but a series of incidents that can lead to complex PTSD. And for me, that was exacerbated by my then years and decades of working with victims. So I have both my MST PTSD and my vicarious trauma PTSD. But it took me literally decades to recognize that this was what happening to me. It wasn't until I started working with women veterans and started hearing about this stuff that it even occurred to me that was what was going on with me, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And so that's why
No,
things like this, that's why things like this are important, because like I didn't make all of those connections. Somebody made them for me. And so, and the path to healing is a long and winding path. That is not a direct one and done. We always carry that trauma inside of us. Even when we go through therapy and we go through all of the treatment, that trauma lives inside of us. It has changed us. In fact, there has been a study that's shown for women that the closer the traumatic event happens to their menstrual cycle, the worse it can be for them. So this is another reason to make sure that we talk about women and men separately when we talk about assault, when we talk about trauma, when we talk about TBIs and treatment, because we respond and react differently, and we absorb and respond differently to treatment and therapies. So for me, it was a long and winding road, and I didn't really start focusing on healing until after I left the VA and retired. And that was when the bulk of my work was done. So I always like to tell people it's a long and winding road, but it is a road you can be on, and it does get you eventually to better moments. And we have to think about re-traumatization and resourcefulness and all of that stuff when we talk about it.
Yeah, I would say it's not only a long and winding road, but it's certainly up and down as well.
Yeah.
You go over hills and over dales or whatever that expression is,
Yeah.
but go ahead, Whitney.
The question you'd asked about anger, I don't remember ever feeling angry. I just remember being in this this fear that the fear was so strong, it was like you could almost touch it. And I would stand there on the seawall at NES Jax, and he raped me probably 2 or 3 times a week. I was alone on what they call like the balls to 5 watch, which would be like midnight to 5 in the morning. Nobody else around. I'm standing on the seawall, and he would come and assault me. And like I said earlier, he would ejaculate on me and make me wear his semen the rest of the shift. There was no bathroom. There was nothing. And I just didn't feel angry. I just so terrified. And we had a little, what we called a dog house. It was a little tiny building, and all it had in it was a little shelf where you had a logbook and you wrote every 15 minutes what was happening. And he would come there, and I would be convinced, I would just be talking to myself, okay, how am I going to not go in that little house with him? Because that's where he assaulted me. And I was so preoccupied with trying to prevent the assault or walking back to the barracks after the assault, thinking about when's the next assault going to be. I don't remember ever feeling angry. I just remember being wanting to eat a lot, just something to like check out of what I'm in, and it just felt like there was no way out. And he had even told me there was no way out. You know, he's a petty officer first class. I'm an E1. Here I am, this little Indian girl. I had no value. You know, I mean, he told me that over and over and over. Um, so I don't remember ever feeling angry. I just so much embarrassment and fear. And like there was the 4 months of him raping me. There was one other issue where I got assaulted, but it was things like standing in formation and somebody raising my skirt to make sure my panties were military issue. And everybody seeing that. I was the only female. I was a trucker in the Seabees. I've been a commercial trucker almost my whole life, even though I have a master's degree and an active teaching license. I've been a trucker because I maintained some control about who's around me and those kind of situations. But I just don't remember anger ever coming in until February 26th, 2019. I had occasion to stand where I had been raped. And I was so effing mad because I stood where he had assaulted me. And that's when I started a claim again with the VA. Like how dare this man do this to me? But it wasn't until like 2019 that I had anger.
And how did you, like, how did you channel that or not channel that or channel your emotions and trying to like overcome that knowing that you needed help?
I still didn't get help. I did because I'd already tried a claim on my own, and I just felt like as David against Goliath, you know, the federal government versus this little Indian girl from Tulsa. I didn't have a chance on my own. And at the time, I thought I had to pay a copay to go to the VA. So I never went to the VA, never got any kind of care. It was finally in 2023, it was January 25th, 2023. My husband took me to the VA for the first time. And they put me on some medication and got me in therapy. It just anger just really wasn't a big part of it. It was just fear and just trying to prevent more of it.
And do you think that fear helped slow your recovery, or did it fuel the recovery?
I don't think I'm recoverable. I don't feel like that somebody can go through what I went through at I enlisted at 17. I graduated high school early, and nobody ever told me about college. I didn't know anything about college, you know. So I enlisted at 17, and I just never, I just didn't know I could do anything more, I guess.
You're on mute, Elizabeth.
Whitney, I appreciate you making that statement about not being recoverable. I think that's something that we're all not supposed to say. Like you just said the quiet stuff out loud. Thank you. I think that's really important for other people who are survivors to hear. You can go to therapy. It's not like, oh, I have to get an A on this test. Now I'm recovered. It doesn't work like that. There's not like, it's a process you work on, but I'll give you an example. My therapist some years ago said, if I asked you what percentage of men you thought would hurt a woman if there was no repercussion for him, what would you say? And I said 98%. And she said, and she looked really, and she's a Marine, and her specialty is MST. And she said, that's a little high. And I said, you think so? I said, listen, I have a lifetime of experience personally and professionally that tells me I'm right. It doesn't matter. I could see every VA therapist there is, and I'm not going to change my mind on that because that's my life experience. from working with thousands of women, from reading all of the research, from my own experience with men and that of all my sisters. And so I think that if the idea is that I'm going to recover and have a healthy mindset, whatever somebody is determined is healthy, that's not my 98% or Whitney's all, I I think that's wrong. It's we know when we're to the point where we're okay. And thank you again, Whitney, for saying, I don't know if I am recoverable, because it's something that it's always going to be there.
Yeah, I would
You
only
know-
push back oh, go ahead, Whitney.
Oh, I'm sorry. Some of the things that really harmed me, the 2 NJPs, all of that, they're benefiting me now. Had I not stolen that food and had that on my record, I wouldn't have an SMC award today. So some of those things from way back then are benefiting me now. I have 999 paid sessions from the VA with a therapy company here in Vegas called Aloha Care Therapy. I can talk to my therapist 3 times per day at the VA's expense. I'm on my way to dermatology out in town that the VA is referring me to. I feel like I'm in a place where if I was recoverable, that I could get there, but I'm not sure that I am.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is I don't think that recoverable per se is a destination. I would say that, if you look at, I'm really big on mindset, motivation, mission. And if you have a good mindset, it'll tell you that life is a journey, right? It's a process. It's always ongoing. It's not someplace that you ever reach. And I think when people feel like they have to reach a destination, it puts limits on what you're going to be able to do, and it also creates failure, because you're never going to get there, and so you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to have anxiety or depression because you're trying to reach something that you're never going to reach. And I talk to a lot of veterans, as Brittany knows, every single day. And I always try to emphasize that to them, that the path to healing or the path to the best quality of life that you may have is going to be a journey. And you have to decide for yourself. You control the journey, and you need to be able to, put your mind, get your motivation, get your circle of people.
To rewire your brain to think differently.
Yeah, you got to think differently. You have to have some self-awareness. You have to have that support group. And I think that's really that I've always tried in the programs that I've operated under, is always try to push people to reach higher. Like in Brittany's story, hey, the nurse says you're not going to wear heels. Fuck that, I'm going to wear heels. Or Delvin McMillan says, I have no arms and legs, and I want to ride a regular upright bike. Or Chuck Sketch, who is blind and he's a double amputee at the hip. Like, he literally had no legs at all. He was a torso, and he didn't let that stop him. And so there were those people that came through the program. Brittany was certainly one of them because of the severity of her injuries, where you have people that, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is we have stories now. Hey, you're surviving. You're getting on with life. You're a mother. You're a wife. You're trying to put your life back together. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be potholes. There's going to be landmines, all those kind of things, but you're going to keep persevering. You're going to keep pushing. You're going to keep the journey going. And I think that's the most important thing. That's called purpose. That's called a belief. That's called that emotional intelligence, if you will. Those are the foundational things. Because I think, Elizabeth, when I first met you, I asked you about sexual trauma survivors, and that's like the leading cause of suicide attempts in female service members.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I want to go back. I didn't mean it to make it sound like like we were terminally broken when I said that recoverable thing. I appreciate all that you just said.
Oh, you're fine.
But I think that, I think that people, because you talked about resilience and resourcefulness, that's what everything is that keeps us here and keeps us grounded. And we are, you know, you were talking about things that made me think, yeah, that's the broken and the stronger places. Like in my book, it's that broken in the stronger places. We can have our broken pieces, but then something might happen, re-traumatization that sets us back, or having to have a new surgery because something went wrong. But then we, you know, we lacquer over that and we keep going and we fix it again. And so our stronger places, our stronger places can break, but we can come back from that.
Always.
Yeah, and it's with this, the social supports are really important. Women veterans actually have lower social supports than male veterans. And so it's really good. And you know, that social support is oftentimes what keeps us grounded. It can be a huge resource for people, especially when we're having terrible moments of depression or other mental health crisis, or even physical health crisis. People in chronic pain benefit more from social attachments. And so I really like the idea that that this organization and other organizations are doing that focus work for people, that helping, being that source for them.
I want to say where you said that some of the things that were bad, the trauma, have ended up working out in your benefit. I have to say that, I mean, I am a true believer in everything happens for a reason. And I have been, yes, I was in this horrible car accident and I had so many surgeries and all these things happen. But I wouldn't, almost any of the people that have helped me through all of this. I have had so many different just doors open because of the trauma that I endured. It has made me, I feel like, such a better person because of the things that I had to go through. So I definitely will, you know, second on that, that like, yes, some really bad things happen, but in the long run, they have ended up benefiting me in so many different ways. And it's definitely about, you know, how you think about things and your mindset.
You know what, Brittany, I have helped because I had a hard time with getting my own claim. I can't even tell you how many women I have helped do their claim, walk them through the steps. And then I even know the questions to ask, like, what's your problems with food? You know, what type of eating disorder do you have secondary? And nothing, none of them shock me. Like, I'm helping a woman right now. She's eating and vomiting her hair. Somebody eating glue sticks. Somebody just holding grass in their mouth. And it's all secondary to MST. And I, I feel like, because I've already been through it, I feel like my eating disorders are pretty benign compared to some of what I encounter. But I just helped a woman. She just got rated. I cried with her. She'd been 10% from 98. She just got 100% last week. And she's been stuck. She didn't even know what she didn't know. And I ran into her at Whole Foods, and I run into someone. I actually at a Zoom, I did an intent to file with a group of women. Just do this intent to file. The burden time is 2 minutes. Then you got 365 days to complete the claim. But just get this date set, and then you can work on getting your records and, you know, all of that sort of thing. And tell them how to make it easier for themselves, you know, print out a pile of 4138 so you can do a statement and fill in your name and all your information. Then you'll Xerox them, and where there's, you know, lacking evidence, we're going to just do a 4138, the VA form 214138, and have that evidence. And I have helped, I couldn't even count how many women. And then a woman that I helped says, hey, I know someone else. I was at Disney World and this girl leading me to my restaurant. She's at 60% and she's an MST and she's got back problems and hip problems. her, and then her roommate, who also works for Disney, is an MST, but never even stepped foot in the VA. I talked to a woman that's an officer in 34 years, never stepped foot in the VA, and she's an MST, didn't even know where to start. And I walked her through just doing the intent to file. And like, now you got 365 days to, figure it out. I was like, but I run into women everywhere, almost every day, one woman that I help do her claim. Like, it's amazing. And when they text me, I got my CMP, I'm like, did you print out the DBQ? Because of your PTSD, you have a hard time with your memory. Print out your DBQ, take it with you, and
Can I
make
just
sure
stop
you
one
get said.
second? Just for our,
Yes.
just for our audience sake, the military people love acronyms and initials and things. And most of the listeners are going to go, what the hell is she talking about? So if you wouldn't mind just letting people know who are listening, because I guarantee you what you just said is going to resonate with so many people. And I'm
Okay,
sure
so
that helping other people really helps you heal. So keep going.
it does. So the CMP appointment, that is where the doctor decides what you're claiming is legit or not. Stands for compensation and pension. There's a standardized questionnaire. I'm in Vegas. If I'm claiming MST, I'm going to get the same questionnaire that someone in Manhattan is going to get. It's called the DBQ, Disability Questionnaire, Disability Benefit Questionnaire. You can print that out. That's on the VA. You could Google it, and you could have all your eating disorders on there. Or like, I'm seeing excoriation disorder, trichotillomania, crepitus, all of these secondary conditions to MST that are like anxiety driven. And you can actually print out a DBQ for those, and you can have that with you. That way, when you're on the spot at this doctor's appointment with this person deciding whether or not you're going to be rated, you can have this questionnaire with you, and you can refer to it. When you're, because somebody they're talking about MST for the first time, they're highly emotional anyway. And to not have some sort of help to talk about first the assaults, but let me tell you what happened after the assaults. That's when I started eating my hair and throwing up my hair. That's when I started eating glue sticks. That's when I started to I needed to hold something plastic in my mouth. That's when I had to pick at myself until I was bleeding. That's when I had to start pulling out my perirectal hair or whatever. All of those diseases have names, and they're all rateable secondaries to MST.
And I would guarantee you that most female service members that don't report and then they get out, they don't know how to go about the process. And that's again, one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, because it's a big issue, especially in the work that I do in suicide prevention, because of what I said earlier, where MST survivors, or the trauma is for females the number one behavioral health risk for suicide ideation.
Yep. And I want to add to that, and I really appreciate you talking about all of that, because it's not, I think in one of our texts, we talked about this. It's just not said often enough that women veterans, that, men still complete suicide at a higher rate than women, but women ideate at a higher rate than men. Women veterans are more successful because they're more likely to use a weapon than men. But we are also, the rate of women attempting and completing is growing faster than the rate of men. So I think it's important that we use that gendered language so we can understand. And you keep talking about MST and suicide, and thank you, John, because some of the new studies are really starting to emphasize the correlation, and now they're adding TBI into the mix. So when you add, and they're finally, after years, so one of you might have a TBI because of an incident. The current assessment for TBI doesn't include things like sexual assault and intimate partner violence. So if that's how you got your TBI, the assessment's not going to find that. And so they're starting to finally look in the last year, have started to look at how do they change that assessment so that women and men but mostly it's women who get their TBIs from MST and IPV. Men tend to get it from combat, explosions, et cetera. Women get them from falls, car accidents, and personal violence. And so they're finally starting to put together that correlation between suicide, MST, and PTSD. That's like the trifecta. And
Yeah,
so
you know what? Some guy made an app for that. You might want to check it
Really?
out. It's called LifeScore. Yeah, it's an app that I created. And
Okay.
that's exactly what we do is we ask as part
Nice.
of the assessment, we ask questions about different traumas that happened during your service. And so we track all those things. That's why I know there's a direct correlation between MST and suicide ideation or suicide attempts. And so we look at, TBIs and then what caused the TBI. Like you mentioned a bunch of different things. We ask all about every single one of those things that you just mentioned: falls, assault, combat explosion, whatever it is, car accident. That's part of how we help people. And then there's a whole environment specifically for female users.
And for the listeners, TBI, in case one of us haven't said it yet, is traumatic brain injury.
And it can be anything from a concussion to, all of the above, but some type of injury to the brain that usually results in PTSD, depression, anxiety, and a whole host of other mental health, Alzheimer's,
behavioral health.
dementia. Yeah.
And aging. There's a new report I just saw on a correlation between MST and aging. And ladies, it's worse for us. So do with that what you will.
Isn't everything?
Right.
Thanks.
So yeah.
Another one on to everything else.
Oh, what it takes to be a woman, the men will
Right.
never understand.
No, we won't. That's why there's all women on this thing except for me, because I have to be on because it's my organization. But I put in the chat how you find LifeScore. You just go to getlifescore.com.
Oh,
If you're
thank
listening, you go to getlifescore.com, and there's QR codes there. So whether you have an iPhone or Android, it's a free download, and you can get your score for your life, and you can set up your own peer support component. So you can invite your friends, your family, or whoever you want, clinicians, and all the data that's collected. We don't store any personal information. So your name and everything else is not associated with anything. We don't store your name, your email, your phone number, so that the user controls who sees and who doesn't see the information. But it can really help you. It's designed as a self-determination, self-awareness, and it's there to help you find your path and encourage you. It has a whole quiz on mindset. So all the things we talked about in mindset, it asks all those different kinds of questions about fear, risk, criticism, identity, all those things.
Wonderful.
And your friend Allie Whitney, she's already chimed in the chat about it. So she was involved in helping develop it, and she was one of the early focus group testing. So we tested it with a group of female veterans, so that we got
Nice.
feedback from them. So the app is made for the people I'm trying to help, and that's one of the things that I think is one of the main criticisms that I hear from veterans, is that the VA doesn't understand who they're trying to help, and they don't listen to who they're supposed to help. And when I started working on the app, that was the thing they wanted a tool that, if you would listen, we would tell you what we need help with, and that's what we want help with, not whatever you're trying to give us,
Yeah.
or whatever prescription drug or whatever. It's like, try to just be more straightforward about it, and do it in a way that you can decide the speed of the path. Like, sometimes the VA wants to hurry you into group therapy or hurry you into this or that, and you just aren't ready, but the app works at your pace.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks for taking care of that.
Well, everybody handles trauma differently too. I mean, I'm sure everyone in this group has probably read the book, The Body Keeps a Score.
I pulled that up. I did pull it up when we were all sharing. I was like, definitely want to mention this book because the body does keep score.
Yes, it honestly, I love that book, and it talks about how there's one instance that it talks about how there's this pile up or whatever, and they are taking perspectives of two different people that were in the exact same car like accident, but one person is like hyperactive about it. When bringing up the situation, the traumatic event that happened, they are highly sensitive, their heart rate rises. They have a hyper kind of reaction to reliving that. And another person doesn't remember at all, or they are almost numb to what happened. And so people deal with trauma so differently. So it's hard, but I mean, yes, I'm glad that, you've created that app and it helps.
Jay,
Yeah, I
you
mean, I
should
just
do.
tried to,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, ladies first.
I was just gonna say, Jay, you should do an app where, since you're an app maker, just walk through women through just the basics of here's your VA claim. Every VA hospital has a female employee that their whole job is to make sure that women are able to access what they earned. I wish that someone would make an app that would walk these women, because there's so many of them, through, all right, you're a MST, this is the first step to doing your claim, and this is what what you could do, and you could start getting this organized this way and make it easier on yourself. And and then after they get through the claim process, then okay, now we're going to the CMP process. Let's get your DBQ to you, because you can't depend on the CMP company who's supposed to FedEx it to you to send it to you, so you have no idea what you're walking into. These are all posted on the VA. Let's get your eating disorder. Let's get your substance abuse disorder. Let's get your PTSD, MDD, GAD, all of these things that you have. And we'll get you the DBQs form. And then like the next step, oh, you're getting rated. Are you going to be able to handle your VA disability alone, or are you going to need someone to help you with your money? Have you thought about the VA caregiver program? Anything like that? There's so many steps in it. I wish somebody would make an app for women to, like, because they're just so lost and everybody uses apps for everything. Here's the first step. I just do the intent to file today. And I'm putting the VA on notice. I'm going to be filing a claim. I'm going to want to be compensated for this assault in the next 365 days. Now, where do I go? What do I do next? And I wish somebody would.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, the app already exists. It's called LifeScore. And then what we need to do is we need to, when we ask the question about military sexual trauma, if you answer yes, then there should be a resource that we give that is exactly what you just described, and then everyone could just get it right through the app that already exists. So we'll have a follow-up conversation, you and I. I have a feeling, because I can easily put that right into my app. That would be like super simple.
And I think I'd like to add too, that when you put that in, don't like that. There are specific ways to ask the questions about harassment, assault, and rape that aren't, do you have MST? So like, there are ways to ask it in a non-trigger way to get people, like, because a lot of people, if you ask did this happen to you, they're going to say no. Or
Nope.
they're going to think
Nope,
it,
not
that
me.
they're going to compare it, like, I wasn't raped, therefore I don't have, I can't have this. So please don't ask if they have MST, because if they don't have a diagnosis, they're probably going to say no. But ask questions about harassment. I met a lot of women who, like me, I didn't think it was possible for me because it was just harassment. And so I was like, I can't have MST. I wasn't raped. And I think that it's really important that we make sure that all of those nuances are in there, so people can. I met a woman once who, she was my age, and she was like, oh, we just called that wave hate. I didn't know it was something that that I could get, you know, and that I could, that was real. And you know, it's important. We're not compensated for what happened to us. We're compensated for how it has affected our lives. And
Yeah,
so
so what
those are
I'll-
really important nuances to put in that when you're doing that
Well,
assessment.
you'll see when you download the app and take the assessment, you'll see exactly what I've done. And then you can, there's a feedback button in the app. And then if you don't like what I've done and how I do it, then you can let me know.
Okay, I
'cause
think I
everybody
downloaded
does.
the wrong life skills. What's it?
Life
Is
score,
life
life
score?
score, life score health in the app store.
Oh, I think I downloaded the wrong one.
So see, look for this wonderful logo.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Thank you.
But
All right.
But yes, I don't ask about MST. I don't say that because female users may not have been in the military, first of all. And so I don't ask it like that. But I do ask about sexual assault, sexual harassment, and all these different things. And then, like I said, what I want to do is we can create a whole environment that Whitney described. We could create that once people have, and again, no one sees how you answer the questions. So you only answer the questions for yourself. So you're not answering the question for some clinician at the VA. You're answering the question to help you with whatever it is that you're trying to,
Right.
whatever you're dealing with or whatever, however to make your life the best it can be. So we found that a lot of people really love that part about the app because they can be honest with themselves because they know that there's no one looking at their answers.
I can't. And so what's it? Because it did not show in the chat. It's called Life Score. Because I'm
Hang
looking
on,
at the
I'm putting
chat
it in.
box. and
I
see it.
put it in the YouTube channel chat. I'll put it in our chat too. So just
Oh,
go to
okay.
that website right there.
There it is, getlifescore.com. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, I'll download it. And I want
So-
to add too I want to add for listeners, I think that for listeners who may not be aware, if you experience, whether no matter gender, if you experience it as harassment, assault, or rape in the military, and you feel like that's what's impacting you now, you can go to VA for care, even if you don't have a service-connected disability. And that can be a very important first step if you're considering filing a claim. So for all of the listeners, whether you're a veteran or you know somebody who is, if that was your experience, please know that you can go, you don't have to, and even if you don't have an honorable discharge, you can go to them and say, this was my experience in the military and I need to get some care. And I know it's true with mental health and behavioral health, but I don't know if it's yet true for physical conditions related to the assault and rape. But definitely contact your VA and say, this is what happened to me and I need to get some care.
And
And they'll
Elizabeth,
get you started.
Or just come to Life Aid Hope and send us a note because we have some non-VA, former VA employees that we work with that are excellent at disability claims and disability ratings and helping people get what they deserve. And I know Whitney has to go, so I want to ask one last question. We'll go around, we'll start with Whitney. If you were the Secretary of the VA, what would you do to serve female veterans?
First off, I adore Secretary Collins. I've emailed him personally and received response back. I think what's been done now where female vets can actually report the MST outside the chain of command, that is huge. Right now, they can call that phone number in DC. If there had been a phone number for me and maybe these other ladies, this wouldn't have happened. There was no phone number, and it's typically someone in our chain of command. But I do have to talk about what Elizabeth just said. Even if you only served 1 day and you were dishonorably discharged, you can still go
Yes.
to the VA and you can still file a claim. I just did my
Yeah.
sister's claim. She served 18 months. She's 100%.
Yeah.
She's currently hospitalized at the VA's expense, but she served not long enough. And sometimes people think Oh, I was only a reservist. I was in the National Guard, but I'm still an MST, but they think they can't apply.
Yeah.
Anybody that
Yeah.
served that's an MST can still go to ask for the what is it, the women's program manager or something?
Women
And they
Veterans
will
Program
walk
Manager.
they'll walk you through it. The one in Vegas, Cindy Clements Miller, she saved my life. She took me where I needed to go. I would have got lost in that big VA here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And anybody can Google Secretary Collins's email. It comes up on a Google search, and they will respond.
Thank you for that, Whitney.
Yeah.
That was important.
And,
It's
and
important
thanks,
to say that,
thanks for
Whitney.
joining us, Whitney. We really appreciate you joining us today. It was
Oh,
it was
thank you.
awesome to have you. I always like it when
Thank
someone
you for the
tells
work
me,
you're doing, Whitney, to get other women their benefits. That's so
no,
important.
she's
Thank you.
awesome.
It's amazing. It's the more I do for other people, just like it just comes back to me tenfold. Like just my life has just gotten better and better and better. And this lady that had been 10% raped on Osan Air Base served 10 years. She got her little 10%, never been treated for binge eating, hoarding, alcoholism, all secondary to MST. Now she's getting, besides the disability money, she's getting help. She's at the VA. She's getting help. She has to drive 80 miles to get to a VA because she's in rural Nevada. But she's getting compensated to get there. And if her car breaks down, she can take an Uber and still get compensated. So
Yeah.
I cried with her. Like these women, I know their stories. I know where they were stationed, and there's so many of them. And I can remember oh, okay. You hoard food. You got caught stealing food. You're this, all secondary to MST.
And a lot of people don't realize, like, if they had something happen in the military, if they got confined to their rooms, if they got caught doing something, that's an indicator, for people who filed previously and didn't get it and haven't filed since. I encourage you to go and file again, because up until like the early 2000s, it was hard as hell to get an MST claim, a PTSD claim. And so, but they changed that. And so those, what Whitney's talking about, those are markers that are really strong indicators that if you're doing that, if you could say, yeah, I started doing this after I was sexually assaulted. Man, that's so much power.
The last statistic I saw from the VA was 88,875 women are rated 70% or higher right now walking this planet for MST, PTSD.
You said 88. You said 88,000.
88,875. I saw that number. And currently, the last stats I saw, 209,000 women are rated 100% disabled, and 1.5 million men are rated 100% disabled. That's slightly less than 20% of all rated veterans.
And when you think about the number who experienced sexual assault, we know, I mean, if just those people filed their claims, just the people who have PTSD or physical health conditions as a result of the assault, rape, or harassment they experienced in the military, if just those people filed their claims, that number would help, pretty much like most women. And it's there, it's real. So definitely file. If you filed in the past and you didn't get it, do it again.
Do it again. Do it and
Especially
set
if
to
you
file.
filed,
yeah.
especially if you filed before 2000, because things changed dramatically in the early 2000s.
And feel free to reach out to Life Aid, because like I said, we have some claims specialists that we work with. We just got a Vietnam vet was rated 40%, and we just got him 90. And we were working with a Korean War vet today, just before we went on to the podcast, because he was getting the runaround on his rating. So it's never too late to get your rating. Even if you served in 1950, we're still able to get you a rating. So
that's right.
I just got my dad. My dad never stepped foot into a VA until May 18th this year. He's 60%. He's a Cold War vet. He's got PTSD, scared to death of Cold War issues. He saw a nuclear warhead fall out of an airplane at Osan Air Base, and he's had problems his entire life, been on antidepressants and had anxiety, always had to have a gun with him, hypervigilant.
never had a rating. He got rated this year, March 18th. It's also the first day I flew to Oklahoma and took him to the Muskogee VA, and they were so good there. I had to send an email to Secretary Collins and say, these folks in Muskogee are getting it done. And he responded to me.
You're from
That's
Oklahoma?
Yes, ma'am.
I am too.
Oh, okay. I'm Creek.
Yeah, I live in Oklahoma City, actually.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
the Muskogee VA is great.
Is it?
Yes.
The Oklahoma City
Yes.
VA is okay. It's all right.
You know what? I've heard that, but Muskogee is really good. It's a little hidden gem, I think.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
It's always good to know.
I
We
know
need to
it is.
wrap up because we're a little over the time, but this discussion has been amazing. Brianna, you have anything to say at the end here?
No, I mean, thank you for sharing your guys' stories and going into the details you guys were willing to share. I know it's hard. And we all have a story to share, and it's very inspiring to others who don't want to speak up or are too afraid to for whatever reason. So it's very brave of all of you to just come on here and speak your truth and, you know, reach other people that may need it. So thank you so much. You guys are very sweet and amazing to talk to.
And I would encourage you to, we'll share the link with everybody, or they can just go to our YouTube channel at Life Aid Hope on YouTube, and they'll be able to watch this. And you can send the link out, Elizabeth, Whitney, Brittany, send it out. There's encourage all female service members to watch. I think they would learn a lot. And that was certainly our intent, was to inspire them. And so I think you guys did an awesome job at that for sure.
Girl power.
Mado.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.